Recently, a photo of a 9th grade math class worksheet in Missouri went viral because it included questions from poet Maya Angelou's autobiography about being sexually abused and her sex work. The questions were totally unrelated to math. The school superintendent responded with an apology, saying the teacher got the worksheet from a lesson plan sharing website and the assignment's been removed from the course. Case closed. But as the story got reported, the incident sparked conversation about what is and isn't appropriate to teach a math class. Well, California is in the process of revising its mathematics framework, a nearly 1,000-page document which provides guidance on how to teach K-12 math in public schools. The public commenting period ends May 16th, and our guest has been commenting quite a lot, including co-writing an open letter to California state leadership condemning the framework. The letter was signed by over 1,200 professionals, mostly university-level professors in STEM subjects, science, tech, engineering, and math. Since the letter, some of the elements of the framework have been revised, but our guest, Ze'ev Wurman, says the core of his criticism still stands. We sat down earlier with him to discuss what California math class could look like. With us is Ze'ev Wurman, a former senior advisor in the U.S. Department of Education. He was also on the committee that wrote an earlier version of this framework, and he was a commissioner on California's Academic Standards Commission. Ze'ev, welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
So let's start high level with what your objections are to this framework. In your open letter that you wrote, you said that California is on the verge of politicizing K-12 math in a potentially dangerous way, and that the proposed framework wouldn't affect demathematize math. So explain those to us. What did you mean by that?
I'll try to. Basically, the framework is flawed in three different dimensions. The first one is that it indeed politicizes mathematics. It injects social justice, it injects socio-political conscience, it injects various ideas that come from social justice rather than talking about math. So there is a de-emphasis of the math itself and emphasis on political, socio-political issues. To give you an example, the framework has like 13 chapters. Only 3 of them actually deal with the mathematical standards. All the rest is about how to treat, what subject of the example should be, how social political issues should be raised by the teachers, and so on. So this is the first problem. The second problem is that when it does talk about pedagogy of teaching mathematics, is basically departing from confirmed research. Confirmed research is very clear that expository teaching is much more effective than discovery learning. When you let the students inquire a working group and think on their own what can be the solution, because that can take a long time and can leave a lot of students with wrong impressions, wrong ideas that are very difficult to correct by the teacher later on in a few moments of summary that he gives in the class. The third part is that frameworks have to be based on current and confirmed research. That's in the law, in California Education Code. Yet the references, the support, the scientific support supposedly for this framework is lacking. It's mostly citing research that has been unpublished, not peer-referenced. Even those that are published in second and third tier journals. Somewhere, if you look at the rating of those journals, they are like in the hundreds and even thousands. So those are the 3 separate issues. All of them are very prominent in this framework, which make the framework essentially a problem.
Just to give the audience a few examples of what's in the framework, in Chapter 2, it says data can draw from not only a range of mathematical ideas and curiosities from students, but from a range of feelings about relevant complex issues. This focus on complex feelings aligns with trauma-informed pedagogy, which highlights the importance of allowing students to identify and express their feelings as part of mathematics sense-making. An example of a lesson they give is looking at numbers for who attends your school, which racial and gender groups are represented, and how does your school data compare to state or national data. Here's an example of a vignette that you see throughout the document. Miss Ross selects 3-word problems to connect with the class's current read aloud of George, a novel by Alex Gino that shares the story of a 10-year-old transgender 4th grader and her struggles with acceptance among friends and family. Finally, it talks about the 5 components of classroom instruction that can meet the needs of students in classrooms that are diverse. Among them is explicitly to teach towards social justice. What's your greatest concern if this framework goes through as is?
Well, we already, in the last decade, since we adopted the Common Core standards, our performance is not increasing on objective testing. This framework, using the less efficient, less effective techniques, is going to lower the achievement of our students even more. And further, by injecting essentially foreign material into a discipline that for centuries was considered very clear, focused on academics, suddenly the focus will be on different things. And we actually in California also lost serious testing that was, in some sense, a barrier to failure, because we used to have end-of-course tests. Today, we moved after Common Core to a smarter balanced test that we have only grade 11 tests of general math in a sense. And there is very little math in this test, if I can say it politely. So when the deterioration occurs or will occur, we will generally not know it. We just fly blind.
Ze'ev, a lot of the people who signed your initial open letter were professors in STEM subjects. What are they seeing in terms of preparedness of these students to enter STEM majors in university?
Okay, there are 2 issues with this performance level that are clear in the current draft of the framework. The first issue is that there is this tendency to keep students in the same lane, in the same course, all together, as long as possible. The second issue is, in high school, there is a big push to eliminate the path to calculus and replace it with data science or statistics, or poor man's statistics, if you wish, because they don't have enough mathematical basis, foundation for good statistics. And the claim is that this is more important, it's better, and so on and so forth. And mathematicians all around the country for the first draft and all around California in the second draft came out against it and said, no, what we need for STEM majors, we need a path to calculus, pre-calculus at least, but certainly not diversion to data science. Maybe good enough for social sciences, but certainly not good enough for real sciences.
So basically, by keeping all of the students together, it ends up being the lowest common denominator, and those kids that want to go on to STEM subjects aren't going to be prepared in the way that they need to be. Is that the problem?
That's the idea. Not their idea, but their idea is, teacher will differentiate, will teach different students in the same class in different ways. Well, you need to be a genius to do such a thing. You have a class of 25, 30 kids, depends on the place, and you cannot really give every kid what he needs. Teachers cannot differentiate easily between where there is a huge variance of student abilities in the classroom. So there might be 1 in a million or 1 in 10,000 that can do it, but what about the rest?
I just want to quickly ask you one more question. In the introduction, I talked about the Missouri case with that lesson that created a lot of controversy. How do teachers get their lesson plans? Is there supervision over that?
In most school districts in America, no. They are expected to use the provided textbook, if there are any, and essentially develop their own lesson plans and syllabus. This is actually a big contrast from most other countries that actually have this kind of lesson plans and scope and sequence defined, and they have just to improve and excel in delivering it. Here, the expectation is that every teacher will be his own inventor, his own Einstein, to develop the curriculum on his own or her own. It doesn't work very well.
All right, Ze'ev Wurman, we're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Be sure to watch the entire episode, available on epochtv.com, a completely censorship-free premium subscription platform, brought to you by the Epoch Times. See you there.